Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to today's info session. This is the ninth and last info session of our series. So whether you are just joining in for the very first time or this is your ninth session, we're happy you're here. And we also hope that this series has been informative. As this is the very last session, I would be really grateful if you could all um, complete a short feedback form about the series. So again, whether this is your first session or your ninth session, I really would appreciate any and all feedback so that we can keep making this series better for future students. So I will link the form in the chat. If you could complete this after today's session, that would be really great. So I'll go ahead and link it in the chat here so that you have it ready to go for after this session. And then today we are joined by my colleagues in the Hixon Writing Center and the Caltech Library. So we have Suzanne and Paula here. And so with that, I will turn it over to Suzanne, and then I will jump back in at the very end, as always, to share some upcoming reminders.
All right. Thanks, Isabel, so much. And hello, everyone. I'm Suzanne Hall. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the director of the Hixon Writing Center and a teaching professor of writing here. So I do teach undergraduate courses. And I am going to introduce you to the resources that the Hixon Writing Center will offer you while you are students here at Caltech. So that's a little picture of our space. We're over here in the Center for Student Services, which is a building you'll become very familiar with. Lots of important things over here, like the registrar's office and the deans and things like that. We're up on the third floor. So first, before I talk about what a writing center offers, as a professor here, I think it's helpful for me to just talk for a couple of minutes about why we see writing as something that needs a whole center devoted to it. So is writing an important part of a Caltech education? So of course, as you've already experienced in your educations, reading and writing are just fundamental learning activities that we engage in across disciplines. It's not just something that you do in an English class or even just in the humanities courses, where, of course, our objects of study are texts. But the ways that scientists and engineers learn new things is often involves reading and writing about them. Of course, it also involves solving problems, but not only that. So that's one of the ways that reading and writing are going to be quite important. We often assess students' learning through activities that involve writing or speaking. So in other words, when we're trying to figure out, does this student understand this theorem? Can they build this kind of circuit? Some of the things we're doing to test that is involve writing and communication. So writing is important in that way as well. Caltech students will take multiple writing intensive courses as a part of our core curriculum. So we have courses in the humanities as well as a class that you'll take as an upper level student in your option that really put writing at the center of the class. And so those are going to be some formative experiences for you as well. Many students, as you know, do undergraduate research here. Many students do internships during the time that they're at Caltech. And both of those kinds of hugely important activities for developing your own sense of what you're interested in, what kind of ideas you like to have, what you're going to do beyond Caltech. You have to be able to write effectively to obtain those opportunities. So a lot of the application process to get these competitive opportunities involves writing and communication. And of course, once you're undertaking these activities, you're going to be writing as well. And something that I think seems very obvious to us here, but isn't always so obvious to students as they first get here, is that professional scientists and engineers, if that's the future you imagine for yourself, spend a lot of time writing and speaking to many different kinds of audiences. So if you don't have those skills, even if you have a lot of quantitative skills, a lot of computational skills, if you can't write and speak about what you know and what your ideas are, what your projects are, it's really going to limit your success. And so that's something that we're well aware of and want to make sure we give you support with in your time at Caltech. So let me talk a little bit about the Writing Center and what it does and focuses on and what its resources are. So we are focused on academic writing. So sometimes people might assume a Writing Center, that's where we'll have poetry readings or fiction readings. And Caltech does have those kinds of things. The humanities group does invite authors to campus. But our center isn't really focused on creative writing. We're focused on academic writing, the things that students do in courses or that researchers do as a part of their research and careers. So some of our resources, we offer workshops and presentations on academic writing. So for example, if you decide you want to apply for a SURF during your first year here to do after the summer after your first year, we'll run a workshop on that in the winter so that you can come and learn about how to write the proposal that you'll have to write. So that's one type of resource we offer. We also have customized resources for Caltech writers. And after I finish talking, I'll put a link in the chat that takes you right to this page. And so this is not just like generic advice about how to write sentences, but it's really about the particular kinds of texts that undergraduates and graduate students and postdocs at Caltech are interested in writing. And after, seeing over many years the challenges students tend to have with those, we've created a number of like customized resources for our community that help introduce students to those genres or tasks. So if you're ever finding that you're asked to do something new, write a kind of writing you've never written before, in addition to coming to a workshop, you might also go to our website and see, do we have an introduction to this that we've prepared that you can take a look at? We also have a communication practice room. This is just something maybe to keep in mind for down the road. If you're ever planning to present your work, we have a place you can reserve and come practice giving the talk. And that's really important. And sometimes, especially for undergraduates, it's like tough to find a quiet place that you could feel comfortable practicing giving the talk. We have a space for that. Still, I've been a researcher and a professor for many years. When I have a conference coming up and I'm giving a talk, you better believe that I give it to an empty room a couple of times before I go give it to my colleagues. It's a really important part of being prepared for that kind of work. And then perhaps most importantly, like the central thing our center does is that we offer you the chance to meet one-to-one with peer tutors who are undergraduates like you who've been trained to be writing tutors. And if that's something that interests you, if you love writing, if you're a great writer, that might be something that you want to apply to do as a job once you're here. And so the process where we'll recruit new peer tutors will begin in February of this year. But for now, just thinking about accessing that, there'll be writing tutors who live in every house, who are nearby, who can tell you about this resource. We also importantly have writing specialists who have PhDs in their fields. We have 2 people in the humanities, 2 people who are scientists. And so they really understand at a more advanced level than an undergraduate how writing in different contexts works, how different genres work, what different kinds of readers are looking for. And I think it's a fair question to wonder in this moment, like, well, why would you go talk to a person about writing when you could talk to a bot about writing? And there are lots of answers to that, more than I could give you today. But the one that I'll pitch you on is that our undergraduates and professional writing specialists really understand the unique things that Caltech students are trying to do at a much greater level than a large language model can. A model has not been trained on the particular tasks and types of writing and goals that you will have. Aside from the fact that I think you will get more out of and remember and learn more from an interaction with a person than you will with a bot. So it's a really important service. We often have seniors who come in who are working on their applications to graduate school. And occasionally a few of them will say, oh, this is my first time in the Writing Center. I really wish I'd come here during my first year. I can't believe this resource was here the whole time and I wasn't taking advantage of it. So I try to mention that to first year students in the context of just advocating for you to try resources during your first year. It helps you see, what is this? Is it useful to me? How would it be useful to me? It's always easier to go back to a resource you've used before than it is to use it for the very first time. So those sessions that we offer 7 days a week. We have the peer tutors working nights and weekends. You sign up on our website, and these details of like how to book with us and how it works are things we'll talk more about once you're on campus, but there's a lot of information on our website about this as well. I was just talking about our different kinds of experts on campus. So this just gives you a sense of the diversity and variety of folks we have working in our center. I think we got about 21 peer tutors for the coming year, and they're such a great and engaged group. And of course, you'll get to know some of them once you're here. So as I was mentioning, like the details, I don't want to overemphasize today, but I do want to let you know the meetings are free. They can be 25 or 50 minutes. They can be in person in our center, or they can be online via Zoom. So if there's something about that that's more accessible or comfortable to you, that option is there. These are meetings that are customized to fit your unique goals. So you won't find that the person you're talking to has a rigid agenda or a way of doing things that you have to comport yourself to. We're going to start every session by talking to you about what you're working on, what priorities you have, and customize the conversation around that. As I've already emphasized today, we really understand these unique challenges that you face, and the peer tutors understand them because they're facing them as well. They're students just like you. The writing specialists understand them because in addition to their work in the center with writers over years, they are also instructors. So all of them teach classes here, so they have that vantage point as well. We work with you at any phase of the process. It can be you get an assignment and don't know how to get started. We're working with graduate students who are publishing papers in high impact journals and like anywhere in between. So you don't have to have a draft to come meet with us, but of course you can. You can have part of a draft, whatever it might be. And as it has already become clear, I think, from asides I've made, this isn't just for undergraduates. We also have grad students and postdocs coming in. So this isn't just like something to help you with the transition to college writing, although it is that. So certainly during your first year, you might be coming in for that reason. But we have students coming in throughout their life cycles as learners and researchers. When you're ready for more information about the Writing Center, we'll be at the resource fair during orientation. So come say hello to us. We would love to meet you. I'll also be doing be part of a presentation that happens during undergraduate orientation. So you'll see my smiling face again at that time. You can go to our webpage, writing.caltech.edu. If you think of a question after our session today, you can always email us at writing@caltech.edu. Once you're in a house, you'll have peer tutors in the house who will introduce themselves, and you can ask them questions. And you are welcome to ask me questions now. So before I turn things over to Paula, who's going to talk about the library, we'll give you just a bit of time. If anyone wants to raise their hand or put a question in the chat, I'd be more than happy to answer it. But like I said, if you've got a question that feels like private that you'd rather email us, that's totally fine as well. So we'll just give you a bit of time for questions if you've got any, and then we'll move on to Paula. Okay, great question there. How far in advance do you have to book sessions and can you drop in? It really depends on the time of year. So there are times that we are much busier and then times that we're less busy. So I generally tell first year students who are taking humanities classes or lab courses where they might want to bring that writing in. Probably you're wanting to look 2 to 3 days in advance to book an appointment with us. And once you get assignments and see when due dates are, that's a great time to just go in and go ahead and book an appointment. And often one way that undergraduates use the Writing Center is for accountability. So they'll know like, it's tempting to leave writing this paper lab report to the last minute. I'm going to book a session with the writing center for a day or two before something is due, and then you know when it's due. So you're booking that in advance. So during the fall, it's more competitive to get a spot because we have a lot of seniors coming in who are applying for graduate school and things related to their postgraduate job search. And so during the fall, I'd encourage you to try to make an appointment more than a couple of days in advance. But we also have, if you can. If you can't, go to the schedule and see what's available. Also, peer tutors are often available for off-schedule appointments. So if there's someone in your house, you could email them and say, do you want to meet off schedule with me? There's a link to the list of tutors on our schedule. And finally, we do have a wait list where if you go to book an appointment, everything's full. You can put your name on the wait list. And then if someone cancels, it'll automatically send you an email where you'll be invited to book an appointment if you want. And that's quite common. You know, sometimes people have conflicts at the last minute and will end up canceling something they booked. And so you certainly stand a decent chance of getting one of those emails if you get on the wait list. A little bit less busy in the winter, and even probably spring is our slowest time. In the summer, we're quite busy as well, actually. Is the focus on technical writing, or do we help with making sure requirements are satisfied, like lab reports, writing a conclusion? All the above. So we help with, like I said, all of those things, as well as your humanities writing. So in your first year, you'll probably, a lot of the writing you do will be in a philosophy course or a history course. We can help you understand like how do philosophers write and how is that actually different from if you've mostly written in English classes, the way that people write about literature, because there are actually quite a lot of differences that are new to most students who don't take philosophy as in high school. Lab reports, you know, part of what we'll be doing is if you want technical help on a lab report, making sure you're ticking all the boxes that the instructors prioritize for the grade, you'll have a TA in the class too. So you can say, let me go to office hours and ask the TA this question about how they grade or what they're expecting. So we won't always exactly know that because we're not teaching the lab. But if the lab assignment or TA is communicated, okay, in the abstract, you need to really distill the project in these ways. And you're like, yeah, okay, I understand what I need to do, but how do I do that? That's a good time to come work with one of our STEM writing specialists and say, I haven't done this before. I haven't written up methods before. How detailed do they have to be? Those are things that you can bring to us. So it's really anything related to writing for courses or applying for things related to your intellectual or professional interests. We can help with those things. It's a great question. Anything else before we turn things over to Paula? I'll keep an eye on this. And again, certainly if you think of things later on, you are welcome to email us at writing@caltech.edu. Thanks so much for your time and attention, and I'm looking forward to meeting you when you get to campus.
Thanks so much, Suzanne. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Boop. Hey, hello, everybody. My name is Paula Gatos. I am the Programming and Outreach Librarian here at Caltech. I'm the one in charge of working at the student-focused programming at the library, as well as some of the introductory classes that we have available. You'll probably see me as well quite often during our welcome week events, orientation events at the resource fair and other events around. So absolutely feel free to say hi if you have any questions. I will be using something called Mentimeter as part of my presentation. That gives kind of an interactive way for you all to see the slides that I have, as well as I answer any questions and little questions I have for you as well. So you can go to menti.com and insert the number or scan the QR code. And as well as you can still drop questions in the chat as well. So one of the things I wanted to ask everyone first off is when was the last time you utilized a library space? And this could be not just visiting the library, it could be your local public library, it could be your school library at a high school. If you're already checked out the campus, maybe you have walked into the different libraries on at Caltech. Some past things that other students have said was like use the private study rooms. I have a travel hack in which I look up where, if I'm on a road trip anywhere, I look up where the local public libraries are. So that's where I know specifically where I can find a restroom, some free Wi-Fi, and a quiet space for me to kind of chill out during my trips. So that's kind of a travel hack from me to you. Search your local public library for if you're doing a road trip of any kind or if you're traveling anywhere. Yeah, plenty of people use a private study room. Use the printer, of course. Not everybody has a printer at home to borrow something amazing. That's great. So I'm gonna go ahead. You can keep the code up, and you're more than welcome to still respond um, as we move forward with the little introduction. So how do I use the library sources and how to search for them? Just a second here. So what can you find at the library? So our resources are essentially break down to two categories. They're both physical and digital collections. So physical will be the books from our campus library locations, any maps and journals, equipment like chargers or laptops or projectors. Those are physical things you go to the physical location at the library to borrow. And then our digital collections, which is our ebooks, our journal articles, if you need information from a database or a repository, or stuff from our archives. And you can take a screenshot on how long you can borrow these things. Like these are physical items. So books you can borrow for one term, meaning if you borrowed it on the first day of class, you technically don't have to return it until the end of fall term. The only difference is something called a course reserves, which are collections that your professors or your instructors have asked us to set aside for a certain class. Those you can find when you have access to a Canvas class and under course reserves. Those are listed. Basically, they're your required textbooks if you have them, or any other materials that your instructor might want us to set aside to be available to everybody in the class. Those are for 3 hours because we want to make sure they're available for everybody. Stuff like tech accessories, like adapters or USB, or for 3 hours. Basically assume that if you just need these things real quick, for say if you're rushing to a class and realize you forgot your charger, you can borrow one quickly from the library. Same thing with laptops. You can only borrow them for a short period of time, especially if you're waiting for a laptop to be repaired. You can borrow Blu-rays or DVDs. You could borrow tech equipment. Again, like if you're running to class and realize that you need a camera or a projector for a presentation, you could borrow one at the library. And you can borrow an e-bike as well. These are electronically supported bikes that we have partnered with our local municipal government, meaning San Gabriel Valley initiative, and you borrow it for one day. So if you don't have a bike on campus and want to quickly run to a Trader Joe's and then run back to campus, you could borrow it for a day as well. So where can you find the resources available at the library? So for all things, our library homepage at library.caltech.edu, I highly recommend you bookmark it on your browsers, is essentially your gateway to everything that we have at the library. So I'm going to exit full screen here and show you what the library webpage looks like. The search bar is here, so if you want to just look for books, articles, media, etc., you can immediately search the bar here. On the left-hand side, you can see what hours are open, our buildings are open. So today, the Sherman Fairchild Library is open from 8 to 8. Caltech Hall is 8 to 11. The archives is open by appointment, things like that. So this is your one-stop shop for anything that you have questions about the library. You can contact us, you can check your library accounts, and things like that. And so those with Caltech access credentials, meaning all of you, will essentially have tap access to all the buildings. And if you want to go directly to the library catalog to search for all our digital resources, you could, like I said, you could use the front page here on right at the beginning, or you could bookmark library.caltech.edu/libsearch or libsearch. And I'm going to briefly show you how that looks like. And so this is our library catalog. So if you're searching for things like ebooks or journal articles or things like that, this is where you would go, or your course reserves. So if you were accessing it away from campus, you might see this welcome guest at the very top, and you're just going to sign in with your Caltech Access account. It does take a couple of steps to get to the library. And of course, we have our security prompt, which I'm going to pull out my phone. Oh, I don't need to. I'm already logged in. Amazing. It does take a certain steps to access it, but that's just to make sure, one, that you are actually accessing credible sources for your research or for your classes, and two, just to make sure that we keep your privacy safe, that you're the one only accessing it, and we also don't keep your information. If you get tagged about like share your information with EBSCO, it's mostly so that if you need to place holds, EBSCO is our service provider for our catalog. So if you log in with your Caltech Access account and it notes a share your information at EBSCO, it's not sharing your private information, nor is it tracking anything of what you search. It's mostly so that when you place a request on, say, a book or a journal article or things like that, they're verifying that you actually have access to this. And again, that's for both your privacy and both for security reasons in terms of making sure that you are accessing the journals that you want to access and things like that. And that's also to protect copyright and things like that. So just as an example, the Caltech Library does have classes that to get into the granular on best database search strategies or data management or data visualization that helps you organize your research as you go through your time here at Caltech. And so a uh, really well organized data and research will help you be able to communicate that once you get into the process of either writing or presenting uh, your results to a wider audience. So, as an example, to kind of show you really quick how our catalog works, I'm looking up a book called The Making of Asian America. And so, as you can see, um, I just I know the title of it, so I'm just putting the title in the search bar. And the first result is a physical book. So you can see what the format of the result can be. So the book is Making of Asian America. You can see the status. It is available. It is a course reserve. So as a course reserve, it'll only be for 3 hours. So you can come to the Sherman Fairchild Library and request for it. There's also an ebook available in which you can click access now as an ebook. So if you are in your house or away from campus and you want to read this at 2 in the morning, you can do so. And you can click on the link about accessing it. And then here you could just immediately read the ebook right from your browser. And if you have the capability of also downloading chapters for the ebook, so if you want to download the PDF chapter to, say, an e-reader, you can do that as well. And so this is why there's like, you have to take a little bit of stuff of logging in, but all this information is available to you for free or at low cost. So there are 6 campus locations on campus. The one that I've mentioned regularly is the Sherman Fairchild Library because that is their main library on campus. The hours do change. So over the summer, we're only open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But when the term starts in the fall, we are open 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. So we open on Monday, but do not close until Friday. And we're also open on the weekends on Saturday and Sunday. So this is again Sherman Fairchild Library. So there are 6 campus locations. Each the main library has the math, physics, engineering collection. So in addition to books, we also have study spaces. This is where you get your course reserves. There are group private study rooms. So if you want to book a study room by yourself or with a group to practice or study together, you can reserve and do so. This is also where our e-bikes are. This is where our scanners and printers are. And there's two entrances. You just need your UID to tap in. This is the west entrance facing Dabney. This is the east entrance facing Hamitman or Red Door Marketplace. As you can see, there's also an outdoor amphitheater. So if we talk about things like outdoor movie nights or other events, it's usually held here. SFL as the main library, our information desk is also your physical gateway to any questions that you may have. If you need a group study room key, you need to check out our return materials, pick up any book requests, help with the printer, any directions if you're lost, looking for a bathroom, any help at all, you could always stop by SFL and ask, and we're more than happy to help direct you. And if you're interested in things like work study or working at the library, this is where you often find some of our student staff helping us out as well. Caltech Hall is in our other main library. It is the tallest building on campus. You can't miss it. So the library spaces are actually two spaces, the very top floor where study spaces are, and the very first floor, which is where our 3D printing makerspace is. So that's where our 3D printing lab is. They have DIY machines. There's a board game collection. If you need to borrow a laptop, that's also where you can borrow all the laptops and big AV equipment as well. And then here are other branches. All the different branches are attached to different divisions. So that's where the physical collections are, or the subjects of those physical collections are. So Dabney is humanities, North Mud is geology and maps, Cahill is astronomy, astrophysics, and the archives. I'll recommend if you are ever interested in things like your house history or even any rare books or the history of science, the archives are a great resource to kind of help expand and kind of support and give you a lot of context on Caltech history and history of science. So what else can you do at the library? The Tech Hub I mentioned on the first floor of Caltech Hall is essentially our makerspace. It is all the equipment at the Tech Hub are entry level. So if you ever want to try out 3D printing, if you want to learn how to sew, cut vinyl stickers for your robotics, we are trying to get an embroidery machine. So if you want to embroider your name on a lab coat, all these entry level tools for you to use. The great thing about having the Tech Hub is that it is not attached to any lab or house. It is available to anybody with a Caltech UID. So if you just want something simple or learn new tools to help support your creative and academic projects, the Tech Hub is there for you. We also have poster printing, which is one of the few services that we actually charge for, but it is much cheaper than if you were to print something from, say, Staples or other retailers. So if you need to create posters for a project, want to make a poster for your house or even a poster for a future seminar or conference, the Tech Hub is there for you. And so printing at the library is pretty straightforward, or as straightforward as we can make it. I've mentioned the poster printing and the 3D printers. We have basic multi-function printers. So if you need to print like papers or flyers, you could either upload it to a cloud or put it on the flash drive and print at any of the libraries. All the library locations do have printers, and uh, each each time you use a printer, you get a $25 allowance. So if you're not printing more than $25 worth, so one page is 10 cents in black and white or 20 cents in color. If you're not printing more than $25 worth within a term, you're not getting charged for printing whatsoever. And if you don't use $25, it just resets back to $25 the next term. So if print up to $24 of paper in the fall, it just resets back to 25 again, come winter and spring. And lastly, in addition to all the other sources from group study rooms and books and other resources, we also have things like our upcoming events and workshops. Like I mentioned, there are workshops on how to uh, effectively use our databases, effectively find online resources to help you with your research. But also, we have events like signing up for a Pasadena Public Library card if you're looking for more fiction books or expanding your local resources while you live on campus. Pasadena Public Library will be on campus during orientation week. We have the outdoor movie night on that same day during orientation week. If you want to visit both one of our branches, the Dabney Humanities will have an open house, and the Tech Hub will also have an open house in addition to the monthly drop-in workshops. The first drop-in workshop is to learn how to use the sewing machine to kind of turn your t-shirts into big noodle pillows that you could either turn into a neck pillow or use it to as a door draft to cover the drafts in your houses or your residence. So those are kind of all the things that are available to you. And ultimately, what I want to if nothing else, if you remember nothing else from this presentation from myself and Susanna, is that do not pay for things while you are here during your time here at Caltech. There are plenty of free and low-cost resources for you to support you in your academic success during your time here at Caltech. So, and with that, you can absolutely ask us any questions. You can either drop it in the chat or you can drop it in the Mentimeter. Are there any long-term laptop loans? Um, Technically, no. Because laptops are we don't have a lot of them, and we want to make that we make sure they're available to everybody. We don't have a 1 year laptop uh, loan, so our laptop borrowing policy is mostly just for we've only extended it under special circumstances up to a couple of weeks, um, so that we can make sure that other laptops are available for other folks. So if it is a extraneous circumstance, like my laptop broke and I know I won't be getting back for a couple of weeks, we could probably extend a 3-day loan to that. That's okay, but for a year, probably not, because that we want to make sure that there are other laptops available for other students as well. Are there private study spaces not grouped in the library? Um, Essentially, the group study room are noted as group study room in that they can fit up to a group. But if you want to use a private study room, there are closed study room in terms of like you can check out a key and there's screens there that you can use to also practice your presentation. Um, and things like that. But you can use them just by yourself. They are private and closed. They're just called group study rooms, so they can fit up to a group. And but we also have study booths that can only fit one person. Um, so that if you need to take like a quick Zoom call or just want to be private just by yourself in a one-person booth, about the size of a telephone booth, we have those at the library as well. We have two of them. Any other questions? I saw that printed users is free. Do we have to pay for our filament use? So no. Uh, the 3D printer usage is free, so you just have to take a one-time new user training. And we do have filament for you to use, and all the filament is PLA. However, the only note that we have is that if you know you're going to be using more than 1 kilogram, or basically one giant spool, one regular spool of filament for a very large project, we request that you bring your own filament. And that's just as a courtesy to everybody else. I got a direct question. If I wanted to borrow a course textbook for the whole course that lasts longer than a term, can you request it for that period to 1 to 2 terms? Unfortunately, no. That's again, all it breaks down to is to make sure that these resources are still available for everybody. Um, so course reserves are for 3 hour only, and we'll sometimes, especially if we know that it's a big class, such as like an algebra class or one of the introductory classes, and they need multiple textbook, we'll purchase multiple copies for course reserve, 1 or 2, so that if you do need it for more than 3 hours, you can return one and check the other one out. But for a textbook to borrow for an entire term, if it's not, if it's been set aside as a course reserve, those can only be for 3 hours. But if it's a textbook, say if it's an older edition of a textbook and that particular edition was not requested by a professor to be set aside as a course reserve, those you can check out for a whole term. And books can be renewable. So if nobody else has either requested a book or anything like that, you can also renew it for the following term. And you can do it up to 3 times. So ideally, if you do check out a book that nobody has requested, it's not a set aside for a course reserve, you can check it out for all of fall. And if you need it for winter, you could renew it for winter and then renew it again for spring and then return it at the end of the year after 2 renewals. So you could do that. I don't see any questions in the Mentimeter or the chat. Any other questions?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Paula and Suzanne. If there are any more specific questions related to the library or the Hixon Writing Center when you arrive on campus, as Suzanne and Paula have mentioned, you have multiple opportunities to touch base with them both at various sessions during orientation week. And speaking of orientation week, the full schedule will be shared to all of you next week. So stay tuned for an email from me soon. I know I sent a lot of emails this week. So this is just a quick recap. All of you are assigned an orientation group led by 2 orientation leaders, also known as FCCs. In the next 1 to 2 weeks, you will receive an introductory email from your assigned FCCs who are current Caltech students. So if you have any questions and want that student perspective, feel free to connect with your very own FCCs, and then you will meet your 2 FCCs in person on the first day of orientation week. I also sent an email out about the CS1 placement exam sign-up form, so be sure to refer to that email for more information, and then a reminder that the deadline to sign up for the to take the placement exam is this Friday by 5 p.m. This morning, I shared 2 social events that are happening during orientation week that require advanced sign up. One is a volunteering opportunity, and the other is a visit to the Huntington Garden. So feel free to refer to my email for more information about both of those events. And then the deadline to sign up is September 4th. And finally, a few reminders about upcoming to-do list items. The Conduct and Community Standards module will be available through your Class of 2030 Canvas course starting on Monday, August 24th. And then that module is due by Sunday, September 13th. And then the letter to your first year advisor is due Friday, the 28th, August 28th, and then that can also be found on your Canvas course. And with that, I just want to thank you all for joining us today, as well as throughout the series. Grubhub credits will be emailed shortly afterwards to the first 5 student participants, and then today's recording will be available this afternoon. Again, if you could complete the feedback form, we would really, really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you on campus soon. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a good rest of your week. Bye.